Yeah.
Hello and welcome. How are you?
Hi. I'm good. I'm so happy to be here chatting with you. Y'all are doing amazing things.
Thank you so much. So, for all of the audience, just go ahead and give your introduction, so your name, your pronouns, and any other identities that you would like to share.
Yeah. My name's Charlie. I use he, they pronouns. I'm based here in Portland, Oregon, and I'm the founder of Everywhere is Queer.
Yeah. So, to get us started, I do have a quick icebreaker question. What is the best piece of advice you have ever been given?
My brain is like so focused on my business these days. So it's a piece of advice that was given like for my business that absolutely am carrying through into my life. But everything doesn't have to be perfect. Throw something at the wall, see if it sticks, and run with it. And you can make it better as you're going on with it. It doesn't need to be like completely perfect. As I just launched an app 8 weeks ago, and I mean, it was pretty darn great, but we did have a little bit of errors, when we went live, but that's okay. Like, I was okay with that. I knew that that was going to happen. And two of us who made the app, like, we can't catch everything. So, yeah, that's my advice is like, it doesn't have to be perfect. Go with it, start it, and then refine it to be better.
I'm gonna need to internalize that advice for myself.
Yeah.
I am so much of a perfectionist, and
Yeah.
if things aren't perfect, I don't want to show anyone, which
Yeah.
makes things like this organization sometimes a little bit hard because it's not gonna
Totally.
be perfect. It's never gonna be perfect.
I
So
totally understand. Yeah. I'm also a perfectionist. So it's been really hard for me to like let go of some things, but I'm like, hey, I got to keep moving forward, you know?
absolutely.
Yeah.
What are some things you do to kind of mitigate the perfectionist side of yourself?
Well, I just have like 14 million things going on. So I'm like, okay, I just got to start knocking things off the list. And I have had to accept that they're just everything's not going to be exactly perfect. Um, yeah. So I just, I just spend so much time with me, myself, and I in this attic here. And I'm just like, I got to keep moving forward. So, I mean, yeah, just telling myself like it's okay. And like, let's just keep moving forward.
Just make sure it gets done.
Yeah.
That's the main goal.
Well,
Yeah.
I mean, like, I obviously care that it's done well, and it's
Mhm.
darn close to perfection if you ask me. But yeah,
Well, I think the app looks great. I haven't had any issues with it. Um,
thanks.
s-
Happy to hear that.
Absolutely. Speaking of the app, how about you
Yeah.
introduce the audience to it? What is Everywhere is Queer?
Yeah. Everywhere is Queer is a worldwide map of 12,000 plus queer owned businesses and queer serving organizations. So, queer owned organizations and then nonprofits, queer serving, queer created for the queer community. Listed on what's centralized around a worldwide map on in our app, a map in an app, and then we also have a whole online business section. So we understand a lot of organizations don't all have brick and mortar spaces, but we still want to support them. So we have like an online section, a map based like retail brick and mortar section, yeah, allowing the queer, trans, and ally community to find safer spaces as they navigate all over the world and globally. And we have about 30 different categories, anywhere from real estate agents to lawyers to bars to restaurants to dog walkers to event planners to event venues. Yeah, you name it. And you hopefully can find it on there. Therapists are a big one.
I can imagine that's a big hit, the
Yeah.
therapist one.
Yeah.
I really wish I live in California now, but I
Mhm.
wish when I was living in Georgia that I had had this resource or that I knew that it existed. Um, because finding therapists and even just people to interact with in
Yeah.
various parts of daily life was kind of scary sometimes as a
Yeah.
queer person. Just living in the deep south in the middle
Yeah.
of the Bible Belt,
Yes.
especially. And I think what you're doing is great. I think
Thank
it's
you.
an extremely helpful resource for people. And I'm sure even people in California are using it
Thank
to
you.
find more resources that they might not have known about. So
Yeah, I was just looking at my platform and, I was just like looking, bopping around to different cities around the states, and I was ended up in Atlanta. I had searched Atlanta, and there's so many pins in and around Atlanta, like it just made my heart, like, this platform that I
I
have
love
built,
that.
not just LA and New York, it is so much more, and I'm from rural
Mhm.
America myself, so I hold a huge part for rural America, or not even rural, just outside the metropolitan areas.
Yeah, I actually lived right outside of Atlanta, so that makes me happy to know that there are
Yeah,
those resources there.
many.
I'll probably have to share the app to a few more of my friends that live in Atlanta now, knowing that
Please do.
there's a ton out there for them to find.
Please do. Yeah.
Yeah. What inspired you to create this app?
Yeah. It's kind of like two experiences, but in 2019, I lived full time on the road for a job, actually. And I went to 41 of the 50 states here in the United States. And that just allowed me to see so much of our country. And, due to some dating apps and some other reasons, I kind of can confidently say that everywhere is queer. But I was constantly seeking queer spaces, and I kept getting a list of gay bars. And I was like, I would love to stop by. I do drink, but like I would like to expand my search beyond gay bars, as I was living full time on the road. So I need to eat breakfast, lunch, dinner. I also just want to support queer people and then find those safer spaces um, as a queer person. So results, couldn't really find anything while I was traveling all over. Didn't quite think of the idea yet, but 2 years later in 2021, summer of 2021, I went and volunteered at Brave Trails, which is a queer youth leadership camp. And being in a space of 100 plus queer people, that was my first time being in that big of a space of solely queer people. And it was so euphoric. And as one that's had a lot of voice dysphoria, I didn't experience any of that at Brave Trails. Just like the weight lifted off my shoulders. I just got to exist as my most authentic self. And so I was driving back to Colorado where I lived at the time. And I was like, how can I connect the queer, trans, and ally community with safer spaces? And I was like, a worldwide map of queer owned businesses will connect queer, trans, ally community with queer people in spaces. And so I pulled over on the side of the road and Googled, and I could not find anything. I saw some like localized maps, of course, in like New York,
Yeah.
LA, but nothing done at a global scale. And so I was like, okay, let's try it. I have zero tech background. I had a full time job at the time, working in customer service. And I posted my logo to Instagram 2 years ago. And here we are. I work full time for myself now, which I'm just so beyond grateful.
That is amazing. Yeah, I agree that I mean, it's obviously a fact that there were no other ones, but it's really interesting to see that, like, as organized as our community is, in some ways, I'm very surprised that there weren't more
I
lists like that.
I
Um,
agree.
I
Yeah,
mean, there are ways where our community is not very organized, but there are some where, like,
totally.
building community is like a very strong point of like interest of most of the community.
Yeah.
And yeah, I'm fascinated that there wasn't more of that beforehand.
Yeah, and don't get me wrong, there's been many, many community resources that's connecting the queer, trans, and ally community with safer spaces.
Oh
I'm
yeah,
never going to claim that I'm the first or anything like
of
that.
course.
I'm inspired by so many resources out there. But yeah, there was really no global, worldwide map of queer owned businesses. So I
Yeah,
built it.
I love that. What are some of the like main features and functionalities of Everywhere is Queer?
Yeah. I mean, to put it in one sentence, we're really highlighting and uplifting the voices of queer entrepreneurs and queer organizations. And our whole goal, as said, is to connect the queer, trans, and ally community with safer spaces. But I use my platform, Instagram. I have an email newsletter where I highlight. Right now, I'm highlighting 30 queer-owned businesses from our platform via my newsletter. So make sure to join that via everywhereisqueer.com.
Yep.
And then really just, our app, I've been developing that for the last 7 months with one queer developer in LA. I'm not a developer, so he did all the developing. I did all the design, copy, and all of that. And we just wanted to make it easier. We had been a website-based map, which still exists on everywhereisqueer.com, but it just was a little bit finicky. And our app is just so much easier to use, to filter, to search, yeah. And then the whole layer of the app is, connecting people with online businesses. We did not have a space like we do in the app on our website.
Mm,
So the app really allows you to go by category, find what you need, and hopefully find it and support a queer business.
yeah, that's great. Yeah, we talked about this before, but I really thought that it was very smart to make an app.
Mhm.
I probably would not have found it myself if it was just a website, because
Yeah,
obviously there are so many websites and there's a lot of apps too, but it's a little easier to find apps when you're looking for something specific like
totally.
that.
Yeah.
And it also makes it really accessible to a lot of different communities who maybe have trouble reading on like web
Yeah.
pages and things with their
Yep.
accessibility devices, but apps can sometimes work a little bit better with those. So
Yeah.
I think it's just a really great and very smart idea to
Thanks.
have an app as well as the website for so many reasons. That was really
Thanks.
smart.
Thanks. Yeah, it was a hard choice because they're not cheap to develop,
No, not at
and it's a lot of work. But I know that this is the best move for our organization. And again, I wanted the accessibility to be there. For those listening, our app is free on iOS and Android, so we do have both apps available.
How do you gather and verify the information about these queer friendly spaces on the app? Because I know like you have to fill out a form because CAGD is
Yep.
on the app.
Yep.
You have to fill out a form, you have to give some information. What is the process of like making sure that this is a really queer friendly space and not sending viewers and users of the app to a scary place that they're going to be harmed?
Absolutely. It's the top of mind over here. With my own two eyes, have approved every single 12,010 organizations that are on our platform myself. And I will continue to do that because, again, I care so much about what is listed on my platform. Um, but yeah, it all started in the early days of me using social media to try to find queer owned businesses. If you search hashtag queer owned on Instagram, there's like 180,000 hashtags with just that one. And then you can go down the whole list of our alphabet that we have created, which is amazing. And find so many of like that specific owned business. And so I would just started messaging and commenting like, hey, I'm building a worldwide map of queer owned businesses. It's free to join. Short application via the link in my bio. So it all started with a Google form, but we now have developed our own platform that's synced with the app. And so if you are a queer owned business, you'll apply via the profile tab of the app. And then it will prompt you to our application portal, which is the same login that you created for the app. It's all synced.
Yay.
And then, yeah, you just fill out a short application, your name, your contact information, everything, pretty much everything is optional. So you don't have to put an email, a public email, or a public phone number. Um, Again, we welcome online organizations, so you don't have to have a specific address. You can just put San Francisco, California, if that's where you'd like. Yeah, and then a short bio, and then we just ask a few questions about your organization, like do you offer online services / sell online? Do you have a brick and mortar location? And then yeah, you just hit submit application, and then it comes to me, and then I approve every single application. So I look at all their websites, their social medias, their bios that they put on our platform, and then I approve the organization. And additionally, you can submit edits to your organization at any time, and I approve every single edit that is made to every single organization on our platform. So I am seeing every single thing that is coming through our platform.
That's amazing. I can imagine that being a ton of work, especially with
It's
12,000.
I have spent hours and hours, if not days and weeks of my life approving organizations, but that's my organization, and I want it to be what it is, which is like what I
Yeah.
have developed, you know? Um, Yeah, at this time, we are not welcoming ally-owned businesses. This is a
Mm,
platform for queer-owned businesses or queer-serving community groups. So that part, nonprofits are welcome. If it's created by queer people, serving queer people, then you're welcome on our platform. You don't have to be a registered 501c3. I know that there's barriers to entry for that. We welcome the queer volleyball groups, the queer D&D groups, the queer Magic the Gathering groups, the queer, whatever it is, we welcome it. As long as, again, created by queer people, serving queer people. And that will be our queer
amazing.
serving community group category that you'll see on our platform. And just to expand a touch on that, we started as just queer owned businesses. And then we expanded into that queer serving community group because I wanted to allow queer, trans, and allied people maybe to find community, wherever they are. Obviously, you can find community at a queer owned coffee shop, but maybe a little bit harder at like a queer owned restaurant, or I mean, maybe that's a great
Yeah,
space to make community. But
it
if it's,
could be.
a queer nonprofit that you wanted to go maybe get involved with, that's like such a great space to build community. So, and again,
Absolutely.
those queer D&D groups, like I want people to be able to find those spaces.
Definitely. And how have you seen this app make a difference in the community? I know we talked briefly about it before, but
Yeah.
what are some specific like instances?
Thousands of messages. I mean, I wish I could save every single one of them and hang them up on my wall, but um got a message from someone living in Bend, Oregon, a smaller town, about 150,000 people, and said, "Thank you for what you've developed. I was able to invite my trans nephew out to Bend and take my trans nephew to trans affirming spaces in this small town that I live in that I was scared to bring my trans nephew to. And he had the best time ever and felt so affirmed when coming to Bend, Oregon." And so,
Oh,
yeah, I mean, it's endless stories like that. I've had trans couples that are like, "Hey, we would have never gone on a cross country road trip before, and we're now going on a cross country road trip and have planned out places all across the country that we're going to go to, and we can't wait to meet all these queer people along the way." I mean, I had a sandwich shop here in I'm based in Portland, Oregon. They just posted on Instagram and they were like, "Sandwich shop, I mean, they don't they're queer owned and yes, they're queer forward, but they don't I don't know, they don't market specifically towards the queer community.
yeah.
Obviously, queer people are welcome." But they were saying that a lot of their clientele are, straight people. And suddenly all these queer people just started showing up, and they were like, "I have no other reason to think that this has to be everywhere is queer because that's the only place that we have our business listed, outside of Google Maps." And they were made a whole video saying thank you to everywhere is queer because they don't see what other reason why all these queer people are suddenly showing up at their sandwich shop, you know?
Wow. I love
So
that.
yeah, I mean, I could go on and on, but yeah, I mean, therapists, I just had someone reach out and they have gotten 10 new clients because of our
Wow.
platform. I had a barber shop in Boise, Idaho, that said they've received several handfuls of clients because of our platform. I had a nail tech in St. George, Utah. I'll stop after this one. St. George, Utah, which is tiny, tiny, tiny little town outside Zion, Utah, southwest corner of Utah. That said, I had someone come in and get their nails done, and they've become my best friend. I'm just like,
Oh, I
what?
love that.
Yeah. So,
Wow. So many good stories. I
and
love that. And it sounds like it's not only good for the businesses because obviously they're getting more business, but it's also good for the people, like in the case of the people doing a road trip across the country, because they're having these spaces, they're being people are able to do things that they didn't think they would be able to do because of a lack of resources. And you've given them that resource, which is
yeah,
amazing.
yeah,
We all should continue to create these resources for our community.
totally
To
agree.
all the viewers out there, if you have an idea, do it.
Do it. I'm here to
Do
support
it.
you. Message me about it. I would love to hear your
Absolutely.
idea, you know? I get I can't offer too much time because I am busy, but I would love to hear your idea and like, you know, just do it. It doesn't have to be perfect.
Yes. Yeah. Same with us. We would love to help in any way possible at CAGD if you have an idea for something that would benefit the community. And we can partner together if
Yeah.
that makes things a little less daunting
Yeah.
to work with someone else. I love collaborating. I think that doing things alone is so much harder
So much harder.
than having someone else to help you with it, even if it's just one other person. And
Yeah.
so, big believer in collaboration.
Big believer. Yeah.
Yeah. It sounds like the feedback that you have received because of that is like just exponentially positive. Have you
Yeah.
encountered any like resistance or pushback from any like mainstream platforms or communities?
Knock on wood. I have received 2 or 3 sad messages since launching my platform in January 2nd of 2022. I have almost 150,000 followers on Instagram. I am on the right side of social media, not the right side, but you know, the correct side of social media. And
Yes.
I'm grateful. I'm just gonna I have really not received a lot of backlash at all. I mean, some people have opinions about maybe the categories and how there can be more.
Mhm.
But other
But
than
that's
that,
like constructive feedback.
yeah,
That's different than like,
I've received constructive feedback for sure. I mean,
okay.
a lot of people have ideas and it's great. Share them, please. But yeah, um, I just want to make sure that, you know, the safety of these businesses, I'm doing the best that I can. You know, it is totally optional to be listed on our platform. I only approve, I do not add a single business without their consent. So every single organization on our platform has given consent to be on our platform, and that's going to stay that way.
Yeah. On that topic, I forgot to ask earlier, have you had to decline businesses? And if so, what were the reasons?
Yeah. They are openly saying that they're an ally, like we're an ally owned business in our application.
Mhm.
Um, and you know, what I have found is that there's actually a lot of queer people that say I'm an ally to the queer community, and they actually mean I'm queer and I'm a part of the community. But anytime that I see that, I follow up with the organization and I just very kindly ask, like, hey, is your organization queer owned? At this time, we are not
Mhm.
accepting ally owned organizations. And of course, some have been like, I'm so sorry, really got excited about it. And so yeah, I don't accept their application. Um, but that's really the only reason. I have not, again, knock on wood, had like major scammy stuff come through or like very like, yeah, I call them sad people like trying to apply or something like that. Like I have seen none of that. So
Mhm.
yeah,
That's very good.
yeah.
Have you had any, like, have you found people yourself or like organizations yourself that you are using? Like, have you found like a new barber through your own app or something like that?
Are you ready? I have my bookkeeper, my business lawyer, my CPA, um, my graphic designer, my admin assistant, my developer, my barber, um, all found on my own platform.
I love that so
Yeah.
much.
Yeah. Like one of
Yeah.
my favorite restaurants found on my own platform. If you're in Portland, Oregon, you have to go to XLB. It's so good.
I love that. That makes my heart happy that like the tool you created helps so many people, but it also helps you.
Oh,
Um, a lot
I'm
of
happy.
people create products that like they can't use themselves, and that has its own, purpose and use. But
Yeah.
it's really cool that it also benefits you in those ways.
Yeah.
You're not only spending time and effort every single day on something that helps the people you love and care about, but it also is something that can benefit you as well, as I've said like 3 times now.
Yeah.
It's
No,
just like repeating myself, but
I totally agree with you though that like, you know, I mean, anytime I travel now, I'm just like, I'm so excited to travel. I'll just share, like, I was passing through Fort Lauderdale, Florida. And as a queer person, obviously Florida gets this like horrible rap, which there is a lot of bad stuff happening and coming out of Florida. I went to my platform. I saw that there weren't like too many organizations, but there was a handful. And so I reached out to some, and I actually, like, one of them was a very OG fan of Everywhere is Queer, and I didn't even know they were in Fort Lauderdale. So I was like, oh my God, hi. We've just chatted so much on Instagram. And I reached out and I was like, hey, I'm passing through for one night. Like, where should I go as a queer couple? And they were like, here, 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 and here, and here. And so we went there, 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 and there. And we had so much fun. Wilton Manors outside Fort Lauderdale. Oh my God. So queer. So queer. So many queer people. A whole city, like the neighborhood filled with queer people. I mean, it's just, we are everywhere. And yeah, so I absolutely do use my platform 100%.
Yeah. Another nice little pocket in Florida that I've been to of like a lot of queer people is St. Petersburg.
Yeah.
St. Petersburg, Florida
Plenty
is
of
very queer
representation
as
on our
well.
platform there. Yeah. Yeah.
It's amazing there. My aunt lives there, and I visited her a couple of years ago, and we went to all these like art museums and like all these restaurants, and there were
Cool.
like, pride flags everywhere. And I was like,
Yeah.
I had come from Georgia, living there
Yeah.
my entire life, and went and visited her there, and I was like, whoa,
Yeah. Yeah.
it was shocking.
Yeah. I brought my good friend from Los Angeles, who's trans, to visit me in Wisconsin, where I'm from originally. I'm from 25 miles west of Milwaukee, but took them to Madison, Wisconsin, which, again, not that big of a town. There is the University of Wisconsin-Madison there, which is a Big Ten university, I think. But they were like, oh my gosh, I have seen more trans flags flown in Madison, Wisconsin than I have in Los Angeles, California. Like,
Wow.
yeah, I'm just like, even though that's the Midwest and Wisconsin, I mean, Wisconsin, yeah, there's so many spaces across our country.
Yeah. Everywhere is queer.
I, I Hey, it is. I believe it. I've pretty
Yes.
much witnessed it. I've been to 47 of the 50 states. I mean, and there have been queer people every single state. We have queer-owned businesses or queer organizations represented in all 50 states. But we are a
How
global
many
resource.
countries? How many countries are they listed?
No, I don't know. I don't know.
Oh,
I
no
should know.
worries.
I don't know. But I mean, we're all over Europe. We're in South America, Central America. We're in Japan. I mean, yeah.
Wow. That is really cool though, that they really are everywhere, like all
We
the
are everywhere. Yeah.
everywhere. Did you face any challenges during the development process of the
Oh
app?
my gosh, so many. I mean, my whole platform, I have cried and cried. I'm also just a Sag Cancer to drop that in there. So I just have a lot of feelings. But yeah, I mean, my biggest hiccup, which was actually at like the end, like right at launch, was and I mean, how would I have ever known this? I think Apple and Android could do a little bit better in communicating this, but when you hit publish to submit your app to each of the the app stores, um, after you hit publish, your app doesn't show up and is not searchable in each app store until about 48 to 72 hours after you hit publish.
Yeah.
So I have this global launch. I had 75 plus global interviews all coming out at about 8 a.m. on February 20th. And I had pushed publish, which I had told my developer, and he didn't know. It's not his fault. But I had said, let's hit publish just like the night before, just so we can make sure it shows up or something. I don't know why I did that, but I did. And then suddenly we hit publish, and you search everywhere as queer in the Android and Apple store, and you don't find anything. You cannot find our app. And so I had a full-on meltdown, I will be honest. I had a lot of feelings arise, and I had a lot of tears coming because I was like, in 12 hours, I'm launching this app and no one's going to be able to find it. And so after a major Reddit deep dive, I found that maybe if you get some people to download it, that it might populate faster. And so I started texting like my own personal community, and I was like, everyone download it now. And like my partner was texting everyone, and my friends were texting everyone. And every hour of the night before my app launch, I woke up and I was looking on the app stores, and it was not showing up. And then I was going live on the Portland News at 7:30 in the morning on February 20th. And at 5 a.m., it did not show up. And at 6 a.m., my partner tapped me on the shoulder and said, look. And our app showed up on iOS, Apple. It did not show up on Android. But I just started crying again. And I was like, all right, we're doing it, you know? And so it just was such an emotional roller coaster because it did show up in iOS at 6 a.m. the day of my launch. Oh,
That's crazy.
and
And
yeah,
it's good that it showed up then.
my gosh. And yeah, so I mean, I went forward with all my social media posts and everything, and I just had to like spend hours commenting on everything because everyone was like, where's the Android? Where's the Android? And I was like, it's coming. If you search, I found out that if you search hashtag everywhere is queer on the Android Play Store, you could find it. If you searched everywhere is queer, nope. If you searched is queer, nope. If you searched queer, nope. But hashtag everywhere is queer, like, why is that a thing? Why don't it was so
random.
It was so random, but I'm happy to
How
say
did you figure that out?
someone had commented and was like, if you search hashtag queer on, they must have been like a tech developer or something. And I was like, oh my God, that does work. And so I was like, search hashtag queer own, or I mean, hashtag everywhere is queer. And that worked. And so, yeah, that I'm grateful to say that we have had 70,000 plus people download our app between the two app stores. Tomorrow will be 8 weeks since we launched. And yeah, I mean, there's so much more room to grow, but I'm so grateful for the amount of people that have downloaded our app. And so if you haven't yet, go download our app. It's free on iOS and Android. It's called Everywhere is Queer. You can follow me on TikTok, Instagram at Everywhere is Queer for any updates. And then I'm going to plant one more seed. You can now buy a small line of Everywhere is Queer merch. Now head to the link in my bio on Instagram, link in my bio on TikTok, or our website, everywhereisqueer.com, and you will find some very cute crew necks and tote bags.
Nice. I'll have to check that out.
Check it out.
I love tote bags. I love tote bags.
I know queer people do. There's a little strategy there, you know?
It's true. You gotta like, you gotta play to what you know. It's like bucket hats, you know, just
so good.
Non-binary people in bucket hats has just always been a thing for some reason.
Yes, so good.
Absolutely. What digital resources do you hope to see available to our community in the future, whether you create it or someone else creates it?
Yeah. I just want to make sure that we are like connecting queer people with safer spaces in every industry. You know, I think like traveling, tourism is such a big industry. I think like universities are such a big industry that I just think we could be connecting the queer, trans, and ally community with safer spaces around universities in some way. Jobs are such a big space of unsafe experiences that happen to queer people, but also a space where safe experiences can happen. And so we need to connect the queer, trans, and ally community with those safer spaces. So stay tuned on that one. That one I might be developing and you might find in our app somewhat soon. Events, you know, there's constantly events happening all over our world that queer and trans ally people should know about. I will shout out PDX queer events. If you search that, you'll probably find it. Social PDX queer events, I think is what they're called here in Portland. But they send out an email every Wednesday, and there's about 100 queer specific events happening every week in Portland.
Wow.
And so anywhere from like drag bingo. So there's so much space to be connecting the queer, trans, and ally community to. And some of that I'm going to build. Some of that might, like someone already built that in Portland. I would love to maybe build that worldwide. Yeah.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, there's a lot of things that I think we could use. I had never even thought about travel, actually. Well,
Yeah.
the one thing I do know is I inform myself every year whenever the Gay Travel Index comes out.
Yeah.
I forget who it's made by, but if you Google Gay Travel Index, I use
Yeah.
that actually to inform
Cool.
myself of what's going on around the world and
Yeah.
what areas are safe.
Yeah.
Like many queer people, I have kind of an exit plan in case things in the US
Yep.
just tank very
Yep.
quickly.
Yep.
And I use that every year. I look at it every single time it comes out, and I
Yeah.
make sure that I keep my list up to date of safe places I can go if the US just
Yeah.
pushes that button
Yeah.
where I need to leave.
Yeah.
And it's a great resource for anyone who doesn't know. It's free. It's just a little PDF that they publish I mean, not a
Amazing.
little PDF, but
Yeah.
it essentially tells you what countries are really safe for you and which ones aren't, and they tell you why. So they get points based on like, do they have anti-LGBT legislation? Are locals likely to murder you in the street? Is actually one of
Yeah.
the categories.
Wow. Yeah.
It's good to know, and
Yeah.
the top few are always green, and then it's kind of like temperature coded. So the
Yeah.
more red that it gets,
Yeah.
the less safe that you are there.
Yeah.
The top few countries are always like Malta and Sweden, always.
Classic, Love them over there. Yeah, I will just play a little seed. I just got to experience a cruise called Joko Cruise. And it is a self-proclaimed nerd cruise. There's a New York Times article out there that is what happens when you put 2,000 nerds on a boat. But Joko is an artist that has a cult following of nerds. What I would say, it is a Magic the Gathering and D&D / cosplay cruise that has a huge cult following of queer people. Pretty much a queer cruise, but not queer specific. But they're giving me a amount of rooms for the 2025 cruise. And I'm choosing to do it because I felt, as a queer couple, we felt so safe on this boat because it was the only people on the boat were from Joko Cruise, and it was so queer and trans. There were gender neutral bathrooms on the boat, and then even one of the spots that we got off the boat in the Caribbean, it was a private island, and so it was only us from the boat, and so there weren't like other people around to like, have unfortunate experiences happen. It was all the amazing people from the boat. And so like you can leave your bag at your seat and go jump in the ocean. And it was just so beautiful and safe. My partner said that was his safest experience of traveling outside of our country ever.
Wow.
So if you're listening, stay tuned. I'm going to be promoting this cruise, and I'd love to have you join on the Everywhere is Queer, section. We're just going to have a block of rooms and make it even more queer than it is.
Nice. Yeah, I have traveled out of the country a couple of times. Thankfully, I think for me, most of them were pre-transition and pre-coming out. I was like 14, maybe younger, most of the times. And so I didn't have to worry about that as much because like not even the people I was traveling with knew, much less anybody
Yeah.
else that we just happened to interact with. But
Yeah.
my last time traveling out of the country, I was kind of trying to stealthily hide that I was beginning transition,
Yeah.
and it did not go super well with TSA check. Little tip for my trans and non-binary binding friends: don't wear the ones with a bunch of metal hooks all down the side when you're going through TSA check. They will pat you down, and they can also completely derail your trip. That didn't happen, thankfully, but
Sorry to hear
Just a little
that.
tip.
Yeah,
Just wear
hey,
the plain fabric ones if you
yeah,
can.
it's a great tip.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and also maybe don't do that if you're going to I was on the way to Albania. That's a whole other story. I we do not have time for today.
Hey,
But
travel
yeah,
tips for queer and trans people. Yes, huge
yes,
opportunity there.
absolutely. Just if anybody is going to any other country and they want travel tips as a trans person, hit me up. I may have some tips for you. And if not, then I will help you find resources from other people who have had experiences in
Yeah,
those specific environments.
amazing.
There's a lot to learn for
I
sure.
bet, yeah.
Yeah. What kind of advice would you give to other entrepreneurs or developers looking to create technology solutions for other underrepresented communities or our own underrepresented community?
Yeah. Still back to my advice earlier, but I will give more. It doesn't have to be perfect. Bring it to market and then start to develop it better and better and better and better. If you look at my first map that I created, it's really embarrassing, but like, whatever. I was like, it is what it is, and it's working, and we're growing it, and it's easy to do, and it's free. I just did a Google form on Google Docs and overlaid that on Google My Maps. And then I
There you
just,
go.
grew it from there. And I had a second version, and now the app is version 3 of our map. Um, and then don't be shy about asking for support of other experts in the industry. Like ask, hey, do you have the space and time to let me have a 30-minute call with you and just pick your brain at what you've built? And then don't be offended when they say, hey, I don't have the time, but keep reaching out to other people. I think I feel really bad sometimes where I am at capacity and I'm not able to just give up a free call again and again. And I feel like some people have gotten really offended. And I'm just, I'm only one human here. I'm the only person
Yeah.
behind this entire platform. I do contract part 5 hours a week, 3 people, but I'm the only like paid employee at Everywhere is Queer. So
Yeah.
but yeah, seek those people. I have 4 monthly calls with entrepreneurs that I've been having for over a year, and we all have just supported each other in any way that we can, sharing decks, sharing this and that, to support each other, and one of them had developed an app, but the others were, a beverage and product, so we just
Mm.
supported each other in any way that we could as entrepreneurs, queer entrepreneurs.
I love that. Yeah, we should, I mean, not we as in you and I, but like
Yeah,
we
yeah,
as a community should have more of those like groups of like maybe smaller entrepreneurs that kind of work together and share
yeah,
resources.
yeah,
Once the groups get really large, it actually becomes a lot more complicated and not manageable. I've learned, but as it's like study groups, you need like
hmm,
maybe a maximum of 5 to work together to really kind of
yeah,
help yourselves build up
totally.
reasonably.
Yeah. I do have an opportunity for organizations listed on our platform for $49 a month. You can become a founding supporter of Everywhere is Queer, and it puts your organization at the top of the list in app. Um, yeah, so folks can find you easier. But you also get the opportunity to join a private Discord server with 350 other founding supporters. And they're all broken out into your categories and then regionally. So, the West, Midwest, Rockies, South, East. And then, any countries that we have regions for outside the United States. But yeah, it's been the magic that's happening in this Discord server. It is wild. Like people are talking about what materials they're using for printing this and that and this and
Mhm.
giving each other feedback on logos and posting a social media post and saying, hey, can you support this in like the algorithm and comment on my post? And all these people keep supporting each other. And it's so beautiful. There's local groups that have started, like they're all meeting up. It's so beautiful.
Amazing. I love that so much.
Yeah.
I love seeing our community continue to support each other.
Yeah.
One of the things that one of the other uh, people from this live stream said was like, queer people just get so excited. We're
Mhm.
very excitable people.
Yeah.
And I think I see that coming through in all of these different products that and like different entrepreneurs that we've talked to is just people just get really excited about
Yeah.
seeing these products and seeing
Yeah.
these like groups and resources and whoever else. We're just like, oh my God, I love
Yeah.
this so much.
Yeah.
And we love supporting each other in those
Yeah.
ways. And that's one of my favorite things about the queer community
Yeah.
in
Me
general. It's
too.
just we support each other so much and we just love the heck out of each other.
Yeah, I mean, you'll hear me say time and time again that this resource is not built by me, it's built by our community. It's built by the people that are telling other people about my platform, telling them to check out my app, telling them to download it, telling organizations, hey, like if you're queer owned, you'll apply via the profile tab of the Everywhere is Queer app. I did not build this resource. Like we as a
Yeah.
community did, and this is a full community resource for us that I have facilitated the growth of. But yeah, I mean, I could not be more grateful for the queer, trans, and ally community.
Yeah. So you hinted at it just a little bit before,
Yeah.
but what is next for Everywhere is Queer?
Yeah. If you are looking for a job and you want to apply to a queer owned business or an ally owned business, we are going to welcome ally owned businesses to post opportunities, but we don't know how they're going to quite be laid out yet, but you'll be able to know if it's a queer owned business or an ally owned business. But we're developing a job board. Yeah, I'm so excited. It's going to be very easy to use. And I want to connect the queer, trans, and ally community with safer job experiences. If I had a job board that I know that I could apply to queer owned businesses, like what? Yes, I want to do that.
Yeah,
And then when
absolutely.
Everywhere is Queer is hiring, you're going to see our job on there because I hope to be hiring in the next few months. Um, so yeah, I mean, that's the next project that's being built. And we
I
already
love
have
that.
a list of this many ideas. So just know that the Everywhere is Queer app is going to constantly be coming out with new and improved, new resources, new ideas, all the stuff. So don't go anywhere. Keep checking back on the app. And also just know that every single day, more and more organizations are being approved to be on our platform. We're receiving between 100 and 200 applications a week. So if you are somewhere where you open our platform and you're like, there's no organizations in my area, keep checking back and spread the word in your area about our platform.
I know in my specific town, there was only one or two when I first opened the app, and one of them was us.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I checked back the other day, and I think there were like 3 or 4, so a couple more had been
Amazing.
added, and
Yeah.
I'm sure they're gonna keep adding more
Yeah.
as time goes on, like you said, as the word spreads.
Yeah.
So we'll see. I think
Yeah.
it's gonna be. I can't wait to see like the entire map just littered with little dots everywhere.
I mean, if you pull up Portland, Oregon, it's wild. So for over 450 organizations listed on our platform in Portland, and it is just, I mean, it's flooded in the best possible way with organizations.
I love that.
Yeah.
I love
So
that
great.
so much. I know I keep saying that, but I love
No,
everything about
I'm
this.
right with you. I mean, I'm so grateful. Yeah.
So how does someone get involved in the app? How would they go
Yeah.
about? And we kind of
Yeah.
discussed this a little bit before, but just
I'll
to lay
just
it out
kind
to
of list it
those.
all out. Yeah. You can download our app. It's free on iOS and Android. If you don't have access to either of those platforms, our map is available on everywhereisqueer.com. Follow me on Instagram and TikTok at everywhereisqueer. I post a lot of updates. You'll be able to find our merch via both of those platforms and my website. And then, if you are a queer owned business, you'll apply via the profile tab of our app. If you know of a queer owned business, tag them in our comments in our social media on Instagram or TikTok, or if you feel comfortable, just directly tell that business. I have a lot of people that email us queer owned organizations that aren't listed on our platform, and I try to reach out to as many as possible. But again, it's just me, myself, and I with my few contracted folks. So I guess it's us, a small team. It's just, yeah. So that's kind of how you can find us everywhere and get involved.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank
I'm
you
so
for all that
excited
you
to, yeah, I'm so excited to have been able to talk to you about this and be able to share these resources. And I really hope that everyone in the audience downloads the app if they
do.
don't already have it. If you're a business owner, if you're an artist and you want to put yourself on there or whatever else you do, go ahead and do that as well.
Welcome.
It's always good to have yourself listed in more places. I mean, I'm a marketing professional. That's like what I do outside of CHED. I
Mhm.
am a marketing professional, and um, yeah, it's always good to have yourself listed in more places.
Yeah, and it's
Always.
free to join. Just I don't know if I had mentioned that. It's free to be on
Yes.
our platform, and then we have that founding supporter opportunity at $49 a month if you see fit.
Yeah. Cool. Well,
Awesome.
thank you again so much. I'm just really thrilled with all that you're doing. I'm so excited to see the job board. Not that I really need a job right now, but
Yeah.
I'm excited to see it, and
Yeah.
I'm excited for everything that is to come.
Thanks. Thanks for bringing me on, and congrats on everything you're doing.
Yeah. Thank you so much. All right. Well, talk again soon.
Yeah, have a good one.
Bye.